What's up, y'all? Daniel, barbering.com, and welcome back to another YouTube video. And on this video, I want to talk about why you should focus on perfection and not the result. And I've been talking about this a lot in the podcast. If you're on the email list, I've been sending emails just kind of covering this topic and kind of deep dive on that. And I've also been talking about it a lot with barbers I work with in the Elevated Mentorship program, because I think this is a very important aspect if you want to be, not only if you just want to be number one, but if you want to build a business that's really great. And this kind of, I guess, mental model and way of thinking has really allowed me to, as a barber, build my business up, and now running, the New Era Barbering as a company, really cultivate the proper vision for this thing, and really also get the damn results that I had the vision for, right? Because it's one thing to have a vision and have a really big goal or plan that you want to conquer and create. It's another thing to do the damn thing. And I think a lot of individuals and people in general, they can dream very big, but when it comes to the execution side of it, they fall very short of it. And it kind of almost makes somebody believe that they are not capable to do the things that they want to do, or that the world conspires against them, which isn't true. Most of the time it's just, the individual just hasn't done the proper things. And honestly, they're just going for a result. And I know that might sound weird at first in this video, but when we go through some examples and kind of lay out the theory behind this as well as the practical work, it'll make a lot more sense why you should just focus on just getting a result and instead focus on this thing called perfection. So what I have here, of course I have my notes as usual, because there's no way in hell I could just go off my top of the head with this thing. So first I'll get into a story about how this really applied to my life and really the lesson, so we can understand just how this thing really works out. And then we'll go through some practical examples in other businesses. And then at the end, we'll kind of go through some action items. So, we'll have the stories, we'll have the theories, we'll have the practical work, and then we'll also have other examples just to really drive home this point. So to start out, really for me, in high school, I played baseball, and I thought I was pretty decent, right? Obviously, I'm not that good, because otherwise I would still be playing. But, this kind of popped up, around high school level when, I honestly, just any person or guy or girl who's playing sports, you kind of want to see, well, can I go pro, or can I get to the next level and play at the next level? Am I that good? And I had dreams of doing that, and that was the vision and the goal and the plan that I had for myself. Now, of course, to get there, I wasn't at that level like any high schooler is. There's a couple of freaks of nature that are good enough to play at the next level, but I wasn't there yet. So of course I needed to train, and so I thought, okay, well, in order to get to the next level, I just need to get a result. I need to hit well, I need to do all right fielding wise, I need to know how to win and everything like that. And so I kind of just trained for the result, right? And what happened was, well, I got the result at the high school level. I was a pretty decent player. I could hit, could field, could run well enough, could play defense well enough. At the high school level, I had the result, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's gonna translate to the next level, and obviously I'm going to play. Well, what happened was, I went to college and I got cut, right? And to make it worse, it was community college. So it wasn't even anything that was great. Of course, the community college I went to was coming off a state championship, so they were very good, and there was a lot of people and a lot of talent out there. But what I realized from that was, I probably shouldn't have been just worried about the result of hitting, fielding, playing defense, offense, and all this other stuff, just thinking at the high school level, right? Because that's kind of just going for the here and now result. I should have been more focused. Well, first of all, I should have probably had the idea of what my overall goal was, right? As the optimization point, which, might have been college, might have been pro level. If I probably did, I think I did have that desire for a little while of man, what if I could turn pro? It was kind of like a what if more than a plan and a goal, and that probably was a bad thing, because I should have had the goal and then work towards that. But, the only goal I had was really just focused on being a really good high school player and not a really good college player, or not a really good pro player. And, when I was training, sure, I was doing the minimum of what I should be doing just to be a good, high school player, like hitting, improving fielding, training that. But I was also doing a lot of dumb stuff, like just bicep curls all the damn time in the gym, or like bench pressing, and just doing like all these things that didn't really matter. Because again, too, I was getting the result already. So the feedback for me was like, oh, I'm good. I just need to continue doing this, and I don't need to do any more work. Even though I was a hard worker, right? I trained every day, and honestly, it was more like productive procrastination. Sure, I felt busy. Sure, I felt like I was doing the right things to get to the next level. In reality, those things that I was doing never translated, right? Now, we can go ahead and fast forward, because of course, like after I got cut and stopped going to college, went to barber school and started my barbering journey. Fast forward maybe like a couple years, and I had built my business up. It was at a barber shop, and I think I was like charging $20. And I started to see the same trends happening. I wanted to get to the next level of my business. I wanted to make more. I wanted to charge more. Yet I was doing kind of the same. I noticed you could kind of always see these same patterns occurring, right? Meaning like I really wasn't doing the right actions, and the actions I was doing, like they were no different. Like I wasn't changing anything up in the business. I was doing the same thing, thinking it would get me the better result, and that's like really improper thinking, right? It's like almost if like let's say when I was in high school, and let's say I got to college or community college, and of course things weren't working out. Mentally, I'm like, more bicep curls. That's what I got to do, right? Which, when we kind of give that example, it's like, no, dumbass, like it's not what you have to do, right? But that's kind of like the thinking that maybe, I for sure took at some point in time. I think a lot of other people take, is just like, oh man, this isn't happening, or I'm not getting the next level with what I'm doing right now. Oh man, I just need to keep on doing more and more and more. And it's like, let's take a step back. Let's look, like more times than not, whatever you are doing, it's optimized for just to get a result. And that result isn't perfection. The two are very, very different, right? You can go ahead and let's say like there's a difference between like losing 5 pounds and like, being physically fit, right? You could just like stop eating for a couple days and lose 5 pounds and you're not physically fit, versus like perfection of like, I don't know, like, one of those like bodybuilding competitions, like that type of fitness level. The result versus perfection, the two are, like when you kind of start separating the two, you see how far apart these things are. And like, honestly, how almost easy it is to get a somewhat result that you're kind of like comfortable with, versus like going for the perfection state, which will get you the long-term result and more of the original result that you actually wanted. So the lesson, of course, is, you should be focused on, first of all, you should have an idea of what perfection is in your field. And then you should work and do the actions surrounding that, not the result, right? And again, too, that might not be as clear. So I have a couple of examples. And again, too, this is more around if you want to be number one, or if you just don't want to be beaten out by the competition, or in business, like, it is kind of like semi-competitive, but also, everything that's created dies eventually. There's nothing that has lasted the test of time. And there's been no business that will last the test of time. And even like these individuals, at some point in time, their career or their business or whatever they're doing has an end. And I think that's a very sobering fact that, this thing ends. Of course, like we all die at some point in time, but like the thing that you're doing should end, because that's like natural law. And it's your job to see how long you can prolong that pocket of time. If you get to number one status, first of all, that's the first thing. And then how long can you prolong that number one status? Because what is it worth to do all that damn work, get to, the be number one, and then only be there for a day, and then get knocked off and be wiped off the board completely the next day? It doesn't make sense, right? If you want to do all that work, you might as well stay there for a while. So some examples that aren't me that might drive home this point a little bit clearer. Honestly, one is Apple. I'm trying to find my phone. So here's my phone right here, right? Apple. Really good product. And honestly, they are now, number one, the most valuable company and brand literally in the world, right? And how did they do that? And obviously they didn't start with iPhones. They started with computers. And back when like Steve Jobs and Wozniak was like creating these things, Bill Gates from Microsoft was like the king, and Steve found like this flaw where sure they made a plethora of products, and sure they had a lot of things that were all right and good, but they weren't great, and they weren't like really crafted that well, and they weren't thought out well for like a consumer. For damn sure. And Steve understood this. And so when they went to go and create any product, first of all, like anything that he put his team to work on, I mean, he would go ahead, they would give him a final product, and he would just say it's not good enough, this has to be better. All the way down to the smaller details of, what this thing looks like on the inside. Of course, I don't have like a first level Macintosh, I just have an iPhone to flash here, but what's really incredible is like back then people didn't really give a shit, especially like people who did computers or any technology. They didn't really care for the thing and what it looked like on the inside, because like the average consumer wasn't going to open this thing up, and they didn't want that thing to look, they just didn't put the care and thought into it. And Jobs knew that actually did matter, right? He knew that like at some point in time, somebody will open it up, and if they do, they want to make it look the best as possible, and like the cleanest, the most simplest thing, and not like some really, he wanted to make it as friendly as possible. And this might seem like really dumb at first, right? Because it's like you're adding a bunch of work on, you're not able to ship out a product, and you're prolonging like profit margins off this thing. But what that allowed him to do is push his team to get real creative with, whatever they were working on spacing wise, to where now they can damn near fit probably better than any computer, well, not better than any computer, but really like have like really thin phones, and like these things can do fucking incredible wonders. Like, because he had that idea back then of what perfection looked like. In terms all the way down into the interior, whereas nobody gave really a shit about that and just thought about the result, the profit margin, all this thing. It allowed him and his team to be really auditing on, all right, cool, this looks good, but like how can we make it better? And they just continued to do that until they had better products that connected with the consumer more, and they honestly just made products that people love. So and it kind of shows, the results is there, because I don't know, I always forget to look this damn thing up, but they're worth a couple $1 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, as a brand and as a company. And they continue to just harp on that, good is not good enough. You need to be great. And most companies, especially back then, or maybe even today in technology, good is good enough for them, because they're focused on profits, not like, how does somebody actually interact with this damn thing? Do people actually love these products? And because that stuff matters. Another good example is like with Kobe Bryant in high school. Now, I don't remember where I heard this from, but I do remember hearing him say that it was a lot harder in high school to play than it is in the NBA. And I think it was a reporter asking him, and the reporter kind of questioned, like, what do you mean by that? And what he meant was, basically, in high school, everybody's hungry because everybody wants to make it to the NBA. So people are working harder, they're more driven, and you have to be that next level up beyond them. That's the thing they're trying to go after, right? And everybody's after that goal. But once everybody gets to the NBA, a good portion of the market, or like the players, they kind of just ease up, they relax, because they have that goal, right? And they thought they've accomplished and conquered everything, and they think that that's going to stay there forever. And when in fact, like, that's not true. Like, I don't know how short an NBA career is. I think an NFL career is like 3 or 4 years, average NFL career, right? And so, like, people who make it to like these like professional athletes, that's like their whole goal, their whole life. Instead of like, cool, I made it, now what? And for Kobe, he always wanted to be the best. Of course, like Michael Jordan was the best basketball player. And so he said, cool, he has 6 championships, I have to get more. I believe Kobe had 5. And so he was more worried about what would make him the best of all time, rather than just making to the NBA and getting paid. And we could see this like literally anywhere in a lot of individual sports or businesses where people more optimize for getting the money versus becoming great. Because it's funny, when you optimize for like perfection and being great long term, that actually gets you the most amount of money. And whereas if you're just focused on the money, you actually won't get that. You might have it for like a short period and pocket of time, but because you lost touch with like what actually gets you the thing, you're not gonna have it at some point in time, right? Another great example of this is Amazon with anything really, right? So Amazon, their like biggest, I mean, they had a lot of competitors in the space, but let's just take shipping, right? Generally, like with the US Postal Service or FedEx or UPS or any of these things, shipping took like a long time, and it was pretty average for everybody who expected they ordered something online to get it within like 5 to 7 days, and even that was pretty quick. And that's if the US Postal Service or whoever was shipping it did not lose it. And sure, Amazon had like the lowest prices, right? So they beat any online competitor with that. But again, it kind of goes back to that Steve Jobs, good is not good enough. Just because we're here doesn't mean, if you're looking at it from a strategical point, sure, you have that, but somebody else could like come in and you left way too much room to get basically taken out. All somebody had to do was create 1-day shipping, or if they're averaging 5-day shipping, somebody just had to make a 4-day shipping, same pricing, and they probably would have beat them out, right? And so this is where the strategy comes in with this thinking as well too. It's like, fuck, all right, I'm here. Where am I weakest at? Where can I actually get taken out? Where can somebody find the opportunity in this to take advantage of that I'm kind of blinded to and jaded to because I think I'm successful or I think I've made it? And so what Amazon did was they left no room for really anybody to take them out. And Jeff Bezos did a phenomenal job. So they didn't just settle for like 1-day ship. I mean, I'm not only just 1-day shipping, but they also made the shipping free, right? That was like completely unheard of. Free shipping and 1-day shipping. And that took a lot of work, because if you imagine having, I don't know how many billions of customers Amazon has or how many billions of orders they have to do in a plethora of areas, but you have to run a tight ship and you have to figure out, he went all the way down to how quickly does it take somebody to take a product and put it on the conveyor belt to then be able to ship off and put in the right truck to then ship off to whoever it may be. And then they thought about, well, all these third-party shippers like UPS or FedEx, they take a long time because they have other orders. What if I just get my own fleet and deliver that and just it make them smaller, more compact, more agile in the streets? And that way I can go ahead and even have faster shipping and even same-day shipping. So, when you focus on perfection and what that looks like, really perfection, what Bezos, I would assume, is trying to optimize for is damn near probably like 30-minute shipping. Like, you click a button, you order something, and then within 5 to 30 minutes, it's at your front door. Like, that's like perfection. And if somebody can do that, they win the game of business, because they will have customers. They will, you can't compete with that. At some point in time, everybody's like, that's the one I'm going with, right? The last one that I think is phenomenal, like I've been getting more and more into like UFC, and one of my favorite fighters right now, of course he's retired, but is Khabib. And I think, and if you don't know who Khabib is, he's undefeated, 29-0. He was the guy who beat Conor McGregor when McGregor was like on top of the world. And this guy is, he just mauls people at the end of the day, right? And in his professional fighting career, which is incredible. First of all, being 29-0 undefeated in the UFC, in one of the most competitive divisions in the UFC, with Conor McGregor and a bunch of other very top talented fighters, is pretty damn amazing. But what makes that more amazing is that in 60, I think it's like, I have it right here, in 60 rounds professionally fought, right? He's only ever lost 2 rounds. One being McGregor, I don't know who the other one was, but I just looked up that stat. And that's pretty fucking incredible, right? And whereas most people in the UFC, they just want to go ahead and be champion, right? It wasn't good enough. And he thought about, Khabib was like, what's perfection look like, right? And to be champion, undisputed, undefeated, and damn near almost perfect, meaning like never losing a round, right? So there's a great story about this that I heard of Khabib, and basically his training sessions, most guys when they train, they just train for one opponent, right? Meaning like wherever they're weakest at, grappling, ground and pound, jiu-jitsu, where they're striking, takedown defense. They have all these strategies that they can implement, trying to better understand like the opponent they're trying to fight against. And what Khabib does is he doesn't just train for one person. He tries to train for one fight, but with 5 different individuals. And what I mean by this is, I remember hearing that in a typical day of sparring, or like might have been like just this a couple times he did this prepping for a fight, where he would take 5 of the best fighters he knew into training with him. And in one training session, he fought all 5. And what he did was basically took the first one, right? He took one guy and basically wrestled and like grappled with him until the guy gave up. And it wasn't like they went like rounds. It was just continuous. And they went for 20 minutes until the first guy said, all right, I can barely like move. I'm done. I'm tapped out. Khabib's still in it, right? So the first guy leaves, and then they bring in a fresh new guy. Now Khabib doesn't get a rest, but he just wrestled 20 minutes with one of the best training partners he has. And then he brings in number 2, who's fresh, been sitting there watching this whole thing. And they go for another 10 or 15 minutes until that guy's gassed. And then that guy says, I can't move anymore. And they swap them out for number 3. Again, no break. And they go again for another 5-10 minutes. That guy gets gassed, take him out, bring in number 4. And then gas, bring in number 5. And this is kind of why, if you watch a Khabib fight, the dude doesn't even look tired by the end of it. Like, he physically mauls and like his opponents, and really he just thrashes them around. It's really interesting to see, because he at the end of the fight doesn't look tired. He has better like conditioning, and he's much stronger than what other people would think. And again, sure, can you go ahead and have a lot of talent and just train specifically for like one individual and be champion? Yeah, of course. Or you could do a strategy like this and only ever lose 2 rounds in your whole professional fighting career. That's what separates people who just want a result versus number 1, right? Result, somebody else gonna knock you off eventually. Perfection, you're gonna do some crazy stuff and like really think how far you could stretch yourself, like training with 5 guys in one session and you never getting a break, and you continue grappling until that other person gives up. It's pretty incredible. Now, what's some action items that maybe some practical things that for a viewer like yourself can do? Well, number 1, I think you always have to have a goal that requires perfection, right? A goal not meaning like, I want to charge this much. Because I hear a lot of barbers that I hop on calls with that want to join Elevated Mentorship and just say, I want to charge this much. Not understanding what that also requires from them, right? Just like if you want to be champion in UFC, it doesn't require just to train and fight and win. There's other things that requires, like what type of training, how long do you train for? What does that, consist of? How often do you train? And then really overall the approach of that, where most guys just go ahead and like grapple and wrestle with one guy, Khabib's over here doing it with 5 guys till they're gassed out. So something that requires perfection, not average, right? And then also requires you to change who you are right now, because a lot of times a lot of barbers, they'll just want, a lot of people will just want the price raise, like one price raise, and then stay there until they're bored again and be like, oh, maybe we could. But that kind of thinking really leaves somebody susceptible to just staying average and taking a long time and maybe being a barber forever. And again, if that's what you want, fine, but that's not what, first of all, that's not what I create like videos like this for, at least individuals. This is more targeted for, look, if you want to be great at what you do, you want to be able to get up to like $150, $200 plus, make 15, 20, 30K a month from cutting hair with only 2 services and have it real simple, this is how. So, you have to pick something that really stretches you, that honestly forces you to not continue doing what you're doing right now. Because if you can continue doing what you're doing right now and you don't have the result already, and you have something that requires perfection, how do you expect to get that, to be quite honest? You're not. And you also have to know that you have to change. So that's the first thing, have a goal, which is also surprising because a lot of barbers don't even have a goal. They don't even know what they want to do. I hop on a call, I'm like, cool, what do you want to do? And sometimes it's just crickets, and that's not good, right? Because you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about long term. You're just staying in the here and now and just thinking about how much money you're going to make tomorrow so you could spend it that night at the club. So the second thing is, these are really easy things. Do the right actions, right? Have a goal that requires perfection and then do the right actions. Very simply put, but what you need to do is you need to actually figure out what is actually worth your time spending on. Most of the time when I talk to a barber and when we start working with somebody in the Elevated Mentorship program, they're kind of blown away with like, whoa, I didn't know this is what it required me to do. I'm like, yeah, like this is how you run a proper business. This isn't like you just hand out business cards or do some random shit and cut some hair and we raise prices here and there. Like it forces you to actually build a proper business. And most people are not used to that. Now, not only with like the things that you should be spending time on, but also what you should not spend time doing. Because there's a lot of things that will take you away from goal, that will actually, you think are busy work. Like let's say for me, when I was, playing baseball, doing bicep curls, chest press, and doing all this other stupid stuff when training, when instead I should have been figuring out my perfect goal, which would be like GoPro, and then what is that going to require from me, and have the awareness of like, I'm not there yet, how do I develop this, right? And then who do I need to go to be able to develop this properly? A great way, like let's say if you don't know this, is just ask yourself, is this the best plan of attack or is there a better way? And you can't fool yourself either, because a lot of times you can say, oh man, this is the best plan of attack, and that it might be the best plan of attack that you know of. And that then requires you to go out and get further information, or, get help doing the damn thing. Get broader awareness of what does this thing actually do, instead of guessing your way through. Because guessing your way through is almost playing like Russian roulette. It just takes one time and to fuck up a business. And I've seen it happen a lot of times with barbers where they'll see somebody else raise prices and they're like, oh, it's time to go, like I'm motivated. And that's probably the wrong thing to do, right? They don't have cash in the bank. They have way under 10K in the bank, probably have less than 2K saved up in the bank. And they don't have a proper clientele. They're not, they didn't build the right business. They didn't build the right clients. They didn't build the right acquisition systems. And they don't really know what's going on. Yet they saw somebody else raise prices and think, oh, it's my time, let's go. And that's improper thinking. Because you shouldn't be playing a game of catch up or not even follow a damn leader, but follow whoever the fuck, you think is doing the right thing. And instead figure out what is the right thing to do. And then once you kind of have a good sense of what's going on, well, you should always audit where you see fit at, right? Now, a great thing that one thing I implemented for myself and like a lot of barbers that I work with is obviously that we do a lot of tracking, right? But something for, let's say you, the viewer, what you can do is you should just figure out like what's your goal, and then track what you like. Just write it down on like a notepad, or like in your notes on your phone, like what you literally do every day action wise, right? And then do that for like a week without thinking, everything you do every day, and then see what that added up to. And if it got you closer to the result that you want to, and you should see direct results, great. But if not, you probably aren't doing the right things. And the worst thing also to do is to, I guess and be like, I think this is getting the right way. Because again, guessing is no better than just, blindly walking, around hoping that you'll make it to your destination. It's just you're taking a stab in the dark. So it would probably do you best to at least get an understanding of what the hell you should do. And this should be done all the time. You should always audit, like, what are you doing? Is this actually the right thing? Always questioning and actually thinking critically about, what you're spending time doing. Because again, too, this all comes to an end. And at some point in time, you could just be wasting time doing stuff that, for whatever reason you think it's going right, or you think this is the goal, and it could be completely off the mark, and you could be just wasting time. So hopefully this helped, and hopefully, like, you know, in terms of the examples and the action items, you at least can get yourself and have a better, clear idea of what perfection is for you versus just going after the result. And again, too, this is what I work with barbers in the Elevated Mentorship Program with, because you know, getting to $100, $150, 200 plus, making the 15, 20, 25K requires perfection. It doesn't require you to just see a result, because again, too, what most barbers will do is they'll see a result of price raise, and then they'll just stay at 4K a month and never be able to like build a proper business because they're satisfied with that result, which you cannot do if you want to be great. And also if you want to level up. Leveling up doesn't mean you stay continuing doing the same lower level stuff. It requires you to take one thing to its max level, do it great, and then, you know, get yourself out of that type of business and into a different business model and structure. So with that, let's say you are somebody who, you know, you might be interested in working with me in the Elevated Mentorship Program to do this, because to be quite honest, yeah, I mean, it does get pretty hard to figure out on your own, and maybe you do want help, and you do want to work with me in one-on-one to help you build your business. Well, what you could do is go ahead, and I will put a link down below, and you could just schedule a call with me, and make sure you figure out a time that works best for you, and we could just talk on this call, meaning like, we can go ahead and go over your business, what's kind of going on, the ins and outs, like really dissect this thing and what's going on with it, and really dissect where you want to go, and really understand, well, why is that, you know, why are you not getting there or getting closer, or why do you not have that yet? And then if I can actually help you, like, I'll let you know. I think about, again, to like 75, 80% of people I hop on a call with, I can't help them do what they want to do, meaning like some people, they just want to stay at a 4K per month mark and they want to open a barbershop. I'll be transparent, I can't help you with that. I can't help you build your business as a barber, and I do think that's the most profitable thing, besides, you know, of course, I don't think owning a barbershop, preferably for me, is the route that will get you the biggest return, because I don't want to manage people, I don't want to have to put up the investment wise. There's a lot of things and a lot of friction before that. I think it's much more profitable for any barber to just stick and focus on the barbering business, because, you know, you don't want to just add a couple $1,000s and have all of that complexity and headache, versus just having one thing, make it very simple, make it very easy on yourself, and fun, and have that do mostly profit. And again, too, that's just my opinion. So again, too, if that's you, you can go ahead and click the somewhere button down below, be like, you ready to get some help, book a call, click that link, you can schedule a time to talk with me personally. And also don't forget to go ahead and tap in with the podcast. So, you know, make sure you go ahead and on either Apple Music or Spotify. I've been really good about uploading podcasts weekly. It's just titled Deluxe Podcast, so you can go and check that out. And then also, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and like and subscribe, share with one friend. And that's it with the video. And so with that, I'll see you guys next week.